All right, what's going on, you guys? So this is going to be my third build guide video of Heist League, and this one, man, this is some next level shenanigans that I put together here for you guys today. So this is going to be the full build guide for my max block hollow palm ground slam gladiator. Yeah, that's everything. It is extremely fun. It is extremely fast. So before we jump in, I just recorded a little video in this map here. So if you guys want to see what it looks like on a super crazy T15 burial chambers with beyond double crit roll, Legion monolith and mobs, all that shenanigans, this is it right here. So enjoy that, and once we're done with the map showcase, we'll jump back in to this build guide video. So enjoy.
A worthy opponent.
I can't do this just yet.
Still sane.
I can't do this just yet.
You reek of imperfection.
All right, so I'm doing some video editing shenanigans in there. So if you're still here, you watch the map content. If not, you might have just skipped using that fancy little timestamp down below. But regardless, this is the full build guide video for the max block, ground slam, hollow palm, deck stacking gladiator. Yes. So we are currently level 91. Our main skill is Ground Slam, and we're sitting at about 250k DPS in Hideout, unbuffed, without charges, without anything like that. And the main premise behind this is, of course, the Hollow Palm. So for those of you that do not know, Hollow Palm technique comes from the One with Nothing small cluster jewel that was introduced a couple leagues back. And basically what it does is it gives you metric crap tons of flat physical attack damage per dexterity while you are unencumbered. Now, unencumbered means that you have no weapons and no gloves. It's just bare hands, fisticuffs. So, because of that, it makes gearing this character a little interesting, but we'll get into that in a second. You essentially can't have a weapon or shield, and you cannot use gloves. Hollow Palm technique can be used with any skill that can be used with unarmed attacks. So that limits your scope a little bit. We decided to go with Ground Slam. So before we go over gear and everything, let's look at the tree. So because we are Hollow Palm, this is a dex stacking build. So what you saw in the showcase and what you can do with this character, this is pushed more towards the end game as far as scalability with dexterity. Currently, we're sitting at almost 1200 dexterity, which is a lot. And I actually still have gear upgrades that we need to get to that I can probably push that over 12 to 1250. But with that, as far as ascendancies go, we are a gladiator, so you will want to be a duelist for this build. And the main reason we do that is for arena challenger, as well as the block for survivability and a metric crap ton of damage. So arena challenger gives you that more attack and movement speed per challenger charge. So as you saw in the build showcase, we are very fast for a melee slam build. That was one of the things I wanted to do with this build, was make a slam based character that was fast, so we could really enjoy mapping. So first off, as far as priorities with ascendancies, you're going to want to go arena challenger, and then you're going to want to go up to pain forged for and then down through versatile combatant. And then for your Uber, you want to take Violent Retaliation in that order. So this is your normal, Painforge is your cruel, Versatile Combatant is your merciless, and Violent Retaliation will be your Uber. As far as pathing goes, we want to pick up as much dexterity as possible, so we are utilizing a fluid motion here. And that is to just turn this strength pathing that we would normally do to get up to the Scion Life Wheel into dexterity, which gives us a huge chunk of dexterity. So you want to come up over here, take the life wheel. This is also Impale, so we're doing Impale on this character as well to stack up to 100%. So you want to take through Forceful Skewering. You want to come down here, grab the dex nodes, just life. Soul of Steel is a great one to pick up as well. And then of course you come down, because we are Impale, you want to pick up Swift Skewering. And then path down, pick up Deverish. This is very, very good because we are also max block. Unbuffed, we're sitting, or buffed out, we're sitting at about 74% chance to block with no gloves, no weapon, and no shield. And I'll show you how we get to that in a second. One of those things is with Deverish. And we path over here, pick up the life. You will have some issues as far as resistances go, so I do recommend picking up through this little node through Cloth of Chain. It does make gearing your character out significantly easier. I do like to do more budgety stuff. This is going to be a little bit more on the high end, but you can do this on a budget. You just have a little bit less dexterity and therefore a little bit less top end damage, but it is still viable. You can play this on a very, very cheap budget, just with a 6 link and getting as much dex on all the gear that you can wear, maintaining your unencumbered status, to make this build really, really fun and really, really effective. So Cloth and Chain just helps fill out those resistances a little bit. Over here, we do take through Swagger, which again gives us a lot of block. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's a 10% chance to block just in these 3 nodes, which is really efficient. And then we take through Blade Barrier, again, for the extra block. And then Ambidexterity is extremely good. I'll put the POB down below, but you can see just how much Ambidexterity gives you as far as damage for a single point. It's something ridiculous. But you can check in the POB and look at that for a second. As far as cluster jewels, now this is a big part of it. And then, of course, we come up, grab through Utmost Swiftness. This is huge. If you're deck stacking at all, you want this node, point blank, period. And then we just path up for more life, more dexterity. As far as jewels, anything that gives you dexterity, attributes, something like this is really ideal. You can also just do dex, all attributes, life, damage while dual wielding. Because while you are unencumbered, you do count as dual wielding, which is why we take Endeavorish and why we're taking all these dual wielding nodes. So we benefit from all those even though we have no weapons and we're not technically wielding anything, right? So for our clusters, though, we are going with attack damage while dual wielding cluster. Now, the reason that you wanted to do this is because this has really, really good nodes on it. Deadly Repartee is extremely good. Again, it just gives you more block, more damage. So because we're stacking dexterity, and that gives us a lot of flat physical damage, any percent scaling damage nodes that you can get in your clusters are huge. Because you have a lot of flat, but not a huge amount of scaling. So take advantage of that. Get as much flat damage in your clusters as you can. This one's got Deadly Repartee, Drive of Destruction, and then Smite the Weak, which is just 40% increased attack damage on maimed enemies. And because we are using the maimed gem, that gives us a lot of damage. And then come through for rote reinforcement. This again helps with endurance charge generation, which we don't really need. More so, it's again for the chance to block attack damage. And again, as much dexterity, if you can find these with flat life and dexterity on them, that's huge. Any kind of flat dexterity in your cluster jewel setup is icing on the cake. And then of course we come up here, just dex point, and then a little bit of leech, which is more than enough with our damage to sustain our mana needs, even spamming our ground slam. So that is the tree pretty much. Jewels like this, as far as cluster jewel priorities, you want dexterity, life, any kind of flat damage, as much dexterity as you can and flat damage. That's literally it. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. So coming down through here, we are using a rapid expansion jewel. Now, the main reason that we're doing this is because the extra radius and the endurance charge when you stun an enemy gives us free endurance charge generation, as well as making our ground slam more of a wide skill. As you can see, pretty much anything to my right just gets hit by ground slam when you cast it. So it gives it a lot of really nice angle and a lot of really nice area. So that is the passive tree right there, guys. Again, I'm going to put the full link down below. But it's pretty straightforward. As much dexterity as you can and as much damage and block as you can. And then good old impales. As far as gear, we are stacking dex. So I just grabbed a ground slam helmet and just hit it with Essences of Sorrow, the dexterity essence. Pretty sure it's Essence of Sorrow, right? I don't know. Don't fact check me. Just kidding. Fact check me. So dexterity, crafting on pretty much all your gear is what you're going to want to do. So ground slam damage, the dexterity is inherent on the essence, and I just kept slamming essences into this until I got a good life and at least one resistance, right? As far as chest armor, I picked this up, I think, for like 80 chaos and then 6 linked it myself. Percent dexterity is really, really good. You get that on elder armors. So if you can get a percent dexterity with a good life roll, you're cooking. And then to put the block attack damage on there, you do just need an open prefix again to layer up your defenses. So as far as defensive layers for this character, we have our speed being 1. We have pretty much max block being 2. We have a lot of passive mitigation, including our endurance charges, our block, our armor, and our speed. So we are very, very survivable. This is a very, very strong build, and I do highly recommend it. We are also running Flesh and Stone, but we'll go over gems in a second. Flat percent dexterity. If you can get actual dexterity on this, an important thing to note when you're crafting gear with these essences and this stuff on them, unless the gear itself has some kind of dexterity requirement, you cannot roll dexterity onto gear without essences. So if you're alt spamming, you're trying to roll dexterity with good life and stuff like that and craft that way, make sure that your armor or whatever you're crafting on has some kind of dexterity requirement. So for instance, this astral plate is a strength-based armor, right? It has no inherent dex requirement. You cannot just alt dexterity onto an armor like this. You have to use an essence. You can check in PoEDB. It has a list of all of the different affixes that you can craft, and it actually splits it up for this exact reason into strength, strength dex, dex int, classed armor. So make sure to pay attention to that. Otherwise, you'll waste a lot of currency. That's why I went with Phoenix Crest bassinet because it does have that inherent dexterity requirement and evasion rating on it. As far as jewelry, just as much dexterity, life, all resistances as you can. And then you want to also put the attribute catalyst onto all of this so you get just that much more dexterity out of it. So dexterity, life resistances on your jewelry, dexterity, life resistances. A citrine amulet is going to be ideal, and then anoint just whatever you can that gives you as much dexterity as possible. And then prioritizing on a citrine amulet, you want the flat dex, life, and then as much resistances. There's kind of a pattern. If you have dexterity, a good life roll, and decent resistances on each piece of your gear, that's all you really need to do, really. This amulet is actually my next upgrade because on the Redeemer amulet, you can also get a % dexterity roll. But that's like God tier and it's very expensive. And I haven't gotten lucky enough to craft one yet. Again, dexterity, life, as much resistances as you can. We are using Garud Khan's Flight. These are huge, especially when you start having absolutely gratuitous amounts of dexterity, because what this does is it gives you flat life per 10 dexterity, right? So right now we're sitting at 5,300 life. So on our boots, if we just take these off real quick, we lose about 600 life just from a pair of boots, right? And then they give you the immunity to burning ground, shock ground, and chill ground, which is nice just for mapping. They give us the flat dexterity as well as the evasion that we are converting directly into armor. So highly recommend that. Now, the belt, this is actually something I learned about literally this league. I forgot that these synthesized belts were even a thing. So if you look at the implicit on that, it has 18% increased dexterity. Now, I bought this one just as a base for about 20 chaos and then crafted this again with essences myself. If you can get a hold of one of these, an extra almost 20% dexterity is huge, huge. Highly recommend. Pick one of those up if you can. You can search it on the PoE trade site. Just search for dexterity, look for % dexterity as an implicit, and it should come up under belts. It doesn't matter what kind of belt it is because it's removing that implicit from our leather belt, which was a flat life implicit, etc. So get one of those. Very, very good. Huge damage boost, right? As far as gems, our main setup, we are running Ground Slam, Brutality, Maim, Fortify, Melee Fizz, and of course Impale. In our helmet, we are running Dread Banner, Seismic Cry, Intimidating Cry, and Flesh and Stone. Now, the reason that we're running these is because of the huge damage multipliers that we get out of them. So this one, exerted attacks deal 30% more damage for the next 4 attacks. So this is a great way to spike down bosses. You cast this, hit the boss 4 times, it's 30% more damage, and when you're talking about having a flat sheet DPS of 250k, that 30% more to then be scaled is a really, really big deal. And then we're also using Intimidating Cry because this literally doubles that, and these do stack. So when you exert your attacks, you're dealing double damage for the next 2 attacks. And when you're doing millions of DPS, doubling that is ridiculous. It's a huge damage boost. Run these. The one thing about this build that I will warn you guys is it is very, very, very link starved. You have to be very selective with what you're trying to do when you're selecting what gems you're going to use. So that's why my boots aren't 4 linked. I have my vulnerability on 2. I'm running my dash, and then I'm running my blood rage. Now, blood rage is just frenzy charge generation and more speed, more speed, more speed. So you can take out blood rage and find another way to generate frenzies. That's just the easiest way that I have found to do that. And then, of course, dash for our movement skill when we do need a quick escape or to get around for something. Not running it with second wind isn't that big of a deal because we are pretty fast. But yeah, so you just have to be really selective. So that's pretty much it as far as gems and everything go, you guys. We also have our Vow Ground Slam, which is an immediate stun. You can even stun bosses with this, so it's very, very useful if you're fighting something that's got really annoying phasing or really annoying weird immunity stuff. You can stun them, knock them out of it, stop them from doing their attack, and just generally adds to your survivability. As far as auras, we are currently running vulnerability just because that extra damage is freaking huge. Dread Banner, again, just to make sure we're hitting that 100% chance to impale. And then we are hitting Flesh and Stone, because this is how we generate our challenger charges. So in Sand Stance, killing an enemy grants you a challenge charge. In Blood Stance, it grants it against unique enemies. So go ahead and hit that up. You're going to need that if you're going to utilize your challenger charges to the fullest. And then you just press a button when you're fighting a boss and there's not a bunch of enemies around. And that's it. So that's pretty much it, guys. Here are the cosmetics I'm rocking with for those of you that care about that sort of thing. So here is all of that. Ground Slam. I'll let you guys pause this as you like, for those of you that care about that kind of thing. We are sitting right now in Hideout at 61% chance to block. Our resistances are maxed. Our Chaos Resist, getting that stacked up on something that doesn't even use gloves is very difficult, but get that if you can. And then we're sitting about 36% damage reduction. When we get hit, this immediately goes up by 10. And then every subsequent hit, it goes up again. So as you're actually going through the mapping, you are maxed out on block, which is extremely good. So that's pretty much it, guys. Here's all the info. We're at 100% chance to hit, 100% chance to impale. Yeah. So that's pretty much it, you guys. Let me know what you guys think. If I missed anything, I'm sorry. I am trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter than they have been traditionally in the past. So let me know what you guys think. I'll put all the links and the POB and all that jazz down below. So thanks again for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate it, and have an excellent rest of your day / evening, depending on where you are in the world. And we will see you next time.